Hello and welcome back, dear listeners. This is Vexing Cat. We're returning to the library today on episode 19 of the Classic Literature series. I started this book earlier this week on Wednesday, a selection of Lord Byron's poetry, specifically a selection of poems by Lord Byron. So I'm really happy to return to this. Let's go ahead and open up the page. As a friendly reminder, be sure to hydrate, caffeinate, grab a snack, do whatever it is that you need to do to take care of yourself. Whether that's cozy
Drink
up with a blanket.
water. Become moist.
Yep, that's Ballas has got it. Gotta stay moist. All right. So I've got my water, I've got my coffee, and I've got my friends here. So wonderful. Friends and family. And an important someone. Let's see. Let's get started. Prometheus. Titan, to whose immortal eyes the sufferings of mortality, seen in their sad reality, were not as things that gods despise. What was thy pity's recompense? A silent suffering and intense, the rock, the vulture, and the chain, all that the proud can feel of pain. The agony they do not show, the suffocating sense of woe, which speaks but in its loneliness, and then is jealous lest the sky should have a listener, nor will sigh, until its voice is echoless. Titan, to thee the strife was given between the suffering and the will, which torture where they cannot kill, and the inexorable heaven and the deaf tyranny of fate, the ruling principle of hate, which for its pleasure doth create the things it may annihilate, refuse thee even the boon to die, the wretched gift, eternity, was thine. And thou hast borne it well. All that the thunderer wrung from thee was but the menace which flung back on him the torments of thy rack. The fate thou didst so well foresee, but would not to appease him tell, and in thy silence was his sentence, and in his soul a vain repentance, and evil dread so ill disassembled, that in his hand the lightnings trembled. Thy godlike crime was to be kind, to render with thy precepts less the sum of human wretchedness, and the strengthened man with his own mind, but baffled as thou wert from high. Still in thy patient energy, in the endurance and repulse of thine impenetrable spirit, which earth and heaven could not convulse, a mighty lesson we inherit. Thou art a symbol and a sign to mortals of their fate and force. Like thee, man is in part divine, a troubled stream from a pure source, and man in portions can foresee his own funeral destiny, his wretchedness, and his resistance, and his sad unallied existence, to which his spirit may oppose itself, and equal to all woes, and a firm will and a deep sense which even in torture can descry its own concentered recompense, triumphant where it dares defy, and making death a victory. Diodati, July 1816. A fragment. Could I remount the river of my years to the first fountain of our smiles and tears, I would not trace again the stream of hours between their outworn banks of withered flowers, but bid it flow as now, until it glides into the number of the nameless tides. What is this death? A quiet of the heart? The whole of that of which we are part? For which, for life is but a vision, what I see of all which lives alone is life to me, and being so. The absent are the dead, who haunt us from tranquility and spread a dreary shroud around us, and invest with sad remembrances our hours of rest. The absent are the dead, for they are cold, and never can be what once we did behold. And they are changed and cheerless, or if yet, the unforgotten do not forget. Since thus divided, equal must it be, if the deep barrier be of earth or sea. It may be both, but one day end it must in the dark union of insensate dust. The under-earth inhabitants, are they but mingled millions decomposed to clay? The ashes of 1,000 ages spread wherever man has trodden or shall tread? Or do they in their silent cities dwell, each in his incommunicative cell? Or have they their own language, and a sense of breathless being? Darkened and intense as midnight in her solitude. O earth, where are the past, and wherefore had they birth? The dead are thy inheritors, and we but bubbles on thy surface, and the key of thy profundity is in the grave, the ebon portal of thy peopled cave, where I would walk in spirit and behold our elements resolved to things untold, and fathom hidden wonders and explore the essence of great bosoms now no more. Also, Diodati, July of 1816. Stanzas for Music. Bright be the place of thy soul. No lovelier spirit than thine ever burst from its mortal control, in the orbs of the blessed to shine. On earth thou wert all but divine, as thy soul shall immortality be, and our sorrow may cease to repine when we know that thy God is with thee. Light be the turf of thy tomb, may its verdure like emeralds be. There should not be the shadow of gloom in aught that reminds us of thee. Young flowers and evergreen tree may spring from the spot of thy rest, but nor cypress nor yew let us see, for why should we mourn for the blessed? Another Stanzas for Music. So I'm assuming untitled, like the last one. Let that plane overhead. Okay. They say that hope is happiness, but genuine love must prize the past, and memory wakes the thoughts that bless. They rose the first, they set the last, and all that memory loves the most was once our only hope to be, and all that hope adored and lost hath melted into memory. Alas, it is delusion all, the future cheats us. The future cheats us from afar, nor can we be what we recall, nor dare we think on what we are. I like that one. So we'll go no more a roving. That almost sounds like the beginning of a limerick. So we'll go no more a roving, so late into the night, though the heart be still a loving, and the moon be still as bright. For the sword outwears its sheath, and the soul wears out the breast, and the heart must pause to breathe, and love itself have rest. Though the night was made for loving, and the day returns too soon, yet we'll go no more a roving by the light of the moon. It's pretty, actually. To Thomas Moore. What are you doing now, oh Thomas Moore? What are you doing now, oh Thomas Moore? Sighing or suing now, rhyming or wooing now, billing or cooing now, which, Thomas Moore? But the carnival's coming, oh Thomas Moore. The carnival's coming, oh Thomas Moore. Masking and humming, fifing and drumming, guitaring and strumming, oh Thomas Moore. Another one, and to Thomas Moore. My boat is on the shore, and my bark is on the sea. But before I go, Tom Moore, here's a double heath to thee. Here's a sigh to those who love me, and a smile to those who hate. And whatever skies above me, here's a heart for every fate. Though the ocean roar around me, yet still shall bear me on. Though a desert should surround me, it hath springs that may be won. Wert the last drop in the well, as I gasped upon the brink, ere my fainting spirit fell, 'tis to thee that I would drink. With that water, as this wine, the libation I would pour should be peace with thine and mine, and a heath to thee, Tom Moore. So that was in 1817. Epistle from Mr. Murray to Dr. Polidori. Dear Doctor, I have read your play, which is as good one in its way, purges the eyes and moves the bowels, and drenches handkerchiefs like towels, with tears that in a flux of grief afford hysterical relief to shattered nerves and quickened pulses, which your catastrophe convulses. Which your catastrophe convulses. I like your moral and machinery. Your plot, too, has such scope for scenery. Your dialogue is apt and smart, the play's concoction full of art. Your hero raves, your heroine cries, all stab and everybody dies. In short, your tragedy would be the very thing to hear and see. And for a piece of publication, if I decline on this occasion, it is not that I am not sensible to merits in themselves ostensible, but, and I grieve to speak it, plays are drugs, mere drugs, sir. Nowadays, I had a heavy loss by Manuel, too lucky if it proved not annual, in Sotheby with his Orestes, which by the by the author's best is, has lain to very long on hand, that I despair of all demand. I've advertised, but see my books, or only watch my shopman's looks. Still, Ivan, Ina, and such lumber, my back shop glut my shelves encumber. There's a Byron, too, who once did better, has sent me folded in a letter, a sort of, it's no more a drama than Darnley, Ivan, or Kahama. So altered since last year his pen is, I think he's lost his wits at Venice. In short, sir, what with one and t'other, I dare not venture on another. I write in haste, excuse each blunder, the coaches through the streets so thunder. My room's so full, with Gifford here reading MS with Hookham Ferrer, pronouncing on the nouns and particles of some of our forthcoming articles. Whew. The Quarterly. Ah, sir, if you had but the genius to review a smart critique upon St. Helena, or if you only would but tell in a short compass what, but to resume, as I was saying, sir, the room so full of wits and bards, Crabs, Campbells, Crockers, Ferrers, and Wards, and others, neither bards nor wits, my humble tenement admits. All persons in the dress of gent, from Mr. Hammond to Dog Dent. A party dines with me today. All clever men who make their way, Crabbe, Malcolm, Hamilton, and Chantrey, are all partakers of my pantry. They are at this moment in discussion on poor Distales. Distales? I'm not sure with that umlaut over the E there. On poor Distelles' late disillusion. Her book, they say, was in advance. Pray heaven she tells the truth of France. Thus run our time and tongues away, but to return, sir, to your play. Sorry, sir, but I cannot deal, unless 'twere acted by O'Neill. My hands so full, my head so buzzy. No, my hands so full, my head so busy, I'm almost dead and always dizzy. And so with endless truth and hurry, dear doctor, I am yours, John Murray. To Mr. Murray. Strahan Tonson Lintot of the Times, patron and publisher of rhymes, for thee the bard up Pindus climbs, my Murray. To thee with hope and terror dumb, the unfledged MS authors come, thou printest all, and settles some, and sellest some. My Murray. Higara, you're crazy. Excuse me. Yes, curious, I am reading Lord Byron. Wednesday, today, probably for the foreseeable future, until we get through the selected poetry of Lord Byron. Let's see. Feel like... Thank you, Higara. Let's see. Go over here. So, curious, we are reading Lord Byron this week. I talked about him a little bit on Wednesday, like the history of him being a bit of a rogue, a ladies' man, running through women like a fish through water, including like, I believe it was Lady Catherine, called him, like, it was like something too bad. I can't remember what it was. I'll remember soon. But yes. I'm a bit sick today, so I appreciate you guys still listening despite me not sounding my best. So I might call it early today, depending on how I'm feeling. But thus far, I feel okay. So we traverse further into the void of poetry. To Mr. Murray. Strahan Tonson Lintot of the Times, patron and publisher of rhymes, for thee the bard up Pindus climbs, my Murray. To thee with hope and terror dumb, the unfledged MS authors come, thou printest all and sellest some, my Murray. Upon thy tables bays so green, the last new quarterly is seen. But where is thy new magazine, my Murray? Along thy sprucest bookshelf shine the works thou deemest most divine, the art of cookery, and mine, my Murray. Tours, travels, essays, too, I wist, and sermons to thy mill bring grist, and then thou hast the navy list, my Murray. And heaven forbid I should conclude without the board of longitude, although this narrow paper would, my Murray. Venice, March 25th of 1818. Ode on Venice. O Venice, Venice! When thy marble walls are level with the waters, there shall be a cry of nations over thy sunken halls, a loud lament along the sweeping sea. If I, a northern wanderer, weep for thee, what should thy sons do? Anything but weep. And yet they only murmur in their sleep, in contrast with their fathers, as the slime, the dull green ooze of the receding deep, is with the dashing of the springtide foam that drives the sailor shipless to his home. 1 second. There we go. Are they to those that were, and thus they creep, crouching and crab-like through their sapping streets. Oh, agony that centuries would reap no mellower harvest. 1,300 years of wealth and glory turned to dust and tears. And every monument the stranger meets, church, palace, pillar, as a mourner greets. And even the lion all subdued appears, and the harsh sound of the barbarian drum, with dull and daily dissonance, repeats the echo of thy tyrant's voice along the soft waves, once all musical to song, that heaved beneath the moonlight with the throng of gondolas, and to the busy hum of cheerful creatures whose most sinful deeds were but the overbeating of the heart, and flow of too much happiness, which needs the aid of age to turn its course apart from the luxuriant and voluptuous flood of sweet sensations battling with the blood. But these are better than the gloomy errors, the weeds of nations in their last decay. When vice walks forth with her unsoftened terrors, and mirth is madness, and but smiles to slay, and hope is nothing but a false delay, the sick man's lightning half an hour ere death, when faintness the last mortal birth of pain, and apathy of limb the dull beginning of the cold staggering race which death is winning, steals vein by vein and pulse by pulse away, yet so relieving the over-tortured clay. To him appears renewal of his breath, and freedom the mere numbness of his chain. And then he talks of life, and how again he feels his spirit soaring, albeit weak, and of the fresher air which he would seek. And as he whispers, knows not that he gasps, that his thin finger feels not what it clasps. And so the film comes over him, and the dizzy chamber swims round in shadows busy, at which he vainly catches flit and gleam, till the last rattle chokes the strangled scream, and all is ice and blackness, and the earth that which it was the moment ere our birth. There is no hope for nations. Search the page of many thousand years, the daily scene, the flow and ebb of each returning age, the everlasting to be, which hath been. Hath taught us not, or little, still we lean on things that rot beneath our weight and wear our strength away in wrestling with the air. For 'tis our nature strikes us down, the beasts slaughtered in hourly hecatombs for feasts are of as high an order they must go, even where their driver goads them up to slaughter. Ye men who pour your blood for kings as water, what have they given your children in return? A heritage of servitude and woes, a blindfold bondage where your hire is blows. What? Do not yet the red-hot plowshares burn, over which you stumble in false ordeal, and deem this proof of loyalty the real? Kissing the hand that guides you to your scars, and glorying as you tread the glowing bars. All that your sires have left you, all that time bequeaths of free and history of sublime, spring from a different theme. You see and read, admire and sigh, and then succumb and bleed. Save the few spirits who, despite of all, and worse than all, the sudden crimes engendered by the down-thundering of the prison wall, and thirst to swallow the sweet waters tendered gushing from freedom's fountains, when the crowd, maddened with centuries of drought, are loud and trample on each other to obtain the cup which brings oblivion of a chain. Heavy and sore, in which long yoked they plowed the sand, or if there sprung the yellow grain, 'twas not for them, their necks were too much bowed, and their dead palates chewed the cud of pain. Yes, the few spirits who, despite of deeds which they abhor, confound not with the cause those momentary starts from nature's laws, which like the pestilence and earthquake smite for a term, then pass and leave the earth with all her seasons to repair the blight with a few summers, and again put forth cities and generations fair, when free for tyranny there blooms no bud for thee. Grab water again. Glory and empire once upon these towers, with freedom godlike triad, how ye sate! The leagues of mightiest nations in those hours when Venice was an envy might abate, but did not quench her spirit in her fate. All were enrapt, the feasted monarchs knew, and loved their hostess, nor could they learn to hate. Although they humbled, with the kingly few, the many felt, for from all days and climes, she was the voyager's worship, even her crimes were of the softer order, born of love. She drank no blood, nor fattened on the dead, but gladdened where her harmless conquest spread. For these restored the cross from which that from above hallowed her sheltering banners, which incessant flew between earth and the unholy crescent, which, if it waned and dwindled, earth may thank the city it was clothed in chains, which clank now, creaking in the ears of those who owe the name of freedom to her glorious struggles. Yet she but shares with them a common woe, and called the kingdom of a conquering foe, but knows what all, and most of all, we know, with what set gilded terms of tyrant juggles. Little space between struggles and juggles in that stanza. The name of Commonwealth is past and gone, over the 3 fractions of the groaning globe. Venice is crushed, and Holland deigns to own a scepter, and endures the purple robe. If the free Switzer yet bestrides alone his chainless mountain, 'tis but for a time, for tyranny of late is cunning grown, and in its own good season tramples down the sparkles of our ashes. One great clime, those whose vigorous offspring by a dividing ocean are kept apart and nursing in the devotion of freedom, which their fathers fought for and bequeathed the heritage of heart and hand, and proud and proud distinction from each other and proud distinction from each other land, whose sons must bow them at a monarch's motion, as if his senseless scepter were a wand, full of the magic of exploded science, still one great clime in full and free defiance. Yet rears her crest, unconquered and sublime, above the far Atlantic. She has taught her Esau brethren that the haughty flag, the floating fence of Albion's feebler crag, may strike to those whose red right hands have bought rights cheaply earned with blood. Still, forever better, though each man's lifeblood were a river, that it should flow and overflow, then creep through thousand lazy channels in our veins, damned like the dull canal with locks and chains, and moving as a sick man in his sleep, 3 paces, and then faltering. Better be where the extinguished Spartans still are free in their proud charnel of Thermopylae, than stagnate in our marsh, or over the deep fly, and one current to the ocean add, one spirit to the souls our fathers had, one free man more, America, to thee. I could argue that this poem is literally like capitalism. There's definitely some interesting stanzas there. Talking about freedom's fountain, and struggling for a cup of freedom when we're yoked and set to work ourselves to death. That's interesting. That's a good poem. Stanzas to the Po. River, that rollest by the ancient walls, where dwells the lady of my love, when she walks by thy brink, and there perchance recalls a faint and fleeting memory of me. What if thy deep and ample stream should be a mirror of my heart, where she may read the 1,000 thoughts I now betray to thee, wild as thy wave, and headlong as thy speed? What do I say? A mirror of my heart. Are not thy waters sweeping dark and strong? Such as my feelings were and are, thou art, and such as thou art were my passions long. Time may have somewhat tamed them, not forever. Thou overflowest thy banks, and not for I. Did I skip a... I'm going to reread that previous one. I don't think I gave it the impact it should have, and for some reason it feels like I didn't read it. What do I say? A mirror of my heart. Are not thy waters sweeping dark and strong? Such as my feelings were and are, thou art, and such as thou art were my passions long. I really like those lines. Time may have somewhat tamed them, not forever. Thou overflowest thy banks, and not for I. Thy bosom overboils congenial river, thy floods subside, and mine have sunk away, but left long wrecks behind, and now again, borne on our old unchanged career, we move. Thou tendest wildly onwards to the main, and I to loving one I should not love. The current I behold will sweep beneath her native walls and murmur at her feet. Her eyes will look on thee when she shall breathe the twilight air unharmed by summer's heat. she will look on thee. I have looked on thee, full of that thought, and from that moment, nay, never, from that moment, never, thy waters could I dream of, name, or see, without the inseparable sigh of her. Her bright eyes will be imagined in thy stream. Yes, they will meet the wave I gaze on now. Mine cannot witness, even in a dream, that happy wave repass me in its flow. The wave that bears my tears returns no more. Will she return by whom that wave shall weep? Both tread thy banks, both wander on thy shore, I by thy source, she by the dark blue deep. But that which keepeth us apart is not. But that which keepeth. But that which keepeth us apart is not distance, nor depth of wave, nor space of earth, but the distraction of a various lot, as various as the climates of our birth. A stranger loves the lady of the land, born far beyond the mountains, but his blood is all meridian, as if never fanned by the black wind that chills the polar flood. By my blood is all meridian. Were it not, I had not left my clime, nor should I be, in spite of tortures never to be forgot, a slave again of love, at least of thee. 'Tis vain to struggle. Let me perish young, live as I lived, and love as I have loved. To dust if I return, from dust I sprung, and then at least my heart can never be moved. Oh my. Stanzas to the Po. I wonder if the Po is a river. Remember to hydrate. There's no chapters per se, so I kind of have to go by instinct. So, as a friendly reminder, hydrate, caffeinate. Poe is obviously a panda. Did you know they're bringing out another one of those movies? I'm really surprised. Apparently he's against a chameleon this time and paired up with Aquafina as a fox? Yes. It looked interesting. I might have to check it out one of these days. My goodness. Bit of a cough there. Glad I was able to mute in time. Sonnet to the Prince Regent. On the repeal of Lord Edward Fitzgerald's forfeiture. That's a mouthful. So far, so good, Hikara. I might call it early today. I've been thinking about it maybe only a couple hours today. I don't know. It's been a weird week, all week. So, those of you just stopping by, I'm continuing Lord Byron's poetry. Sonnet to the Prince Regent. On the repeal of Lord Edward Fitzgerald's forfeiture. To be the father of the fatherless, to stretch the hand from the throne's height and raise his offspring, who expired in other days, to make thy sires sway by a kingdom less. This is to be a monarch and repress envy into unutterable praise, dismiss thy guard, and trust thee to such traits. For who would lift a hand except to bless, were it not easy, sir, and it's not sweet, to make thyself beloved and to be omnipotent by mercy's means? For thus thy sovereignty would grow but more complete, a despot thou, and yet thy people free, and by the heart, not hand, enslaving us. That one was intense. Stanzas. Could love forever run like a river, and time's endeavor be tried in vain, no other pleasure with this could measure, and like a treasure we'd hug the chain. But since our sighing ends not in dying, and formed for flying, love plumes his wing. Then for this reason let's love a season, but let the season be only spring. When lovers parted feel broken-hearted, and all hopes thwarted expect to die. A few years older, ah, how much colder they might behold her for whom they sighed. When linked together in every weather, they pluck love's feather from out his wing. He'll stay forever, but sadly shiver without his plumage when past the spring. Like chiefs of faction, his life is action, a formal paction that curbs his reign, obscures his glory, obscures his glory, despot no more he, such territory. Quits with disdain, still advancing, with banners glancing, his power enhancing, he must move on. Repose but cloys him, retreat destroys him, love brooks not a degraded throne. Wait not, fond lover, till years are over, and then recover as from a dream, while each bewailing, the others failing, with wrath and railing all hideous seem, while first decreasing, yet not quite ceasing, wait not till teasing all passion blight. If once diminished, love's reign is finished, then part in friendship and bid good night. And so, affection to recollection, the dear connection. Bring back with joy. You not waited, till, tired or hated, your passions sated, began to cloy. Your last embraces leave no cold traces, the same fond faces as through the past, and eyes the mirrors of your sweet errors reflect but rapture, not least though last. True separations ask more than patience, what desperations from such have risen, but yet remaining, what is but chaining, hearts which once waning beat against their prison. Time can but cloy love, and destroy love. The winged boy, love, is but for boys. You'll find it torture, though sharper, shorter, to wean and not wear out your joys. Poor love. Knocked about, feathers removed. Incites some interesting imagery. Just a fair warning, folks, we're about 10 minutes out before an ad break. So I'll warn you when we get to that point. But if you need to take a break, I'm going to. So you should do the same. On my wedding day. Here's a happy new year, but with reason I beg you'll permit me to say, wish me many returns of the seasons, but as few as you please of the day. January 2nd, 1820. It's been interesting watching these evolutions of the poems. They like over time, the themes have come and gone in like the Ode to Napoleon, the poetry, the various musical stanzas, um, the poem to Tom Murray from today. That's just kind of interesting how his poetry just has such a variety of different depictions and themes. Epitaph Epitaph for William Pitt. With death doomed to grapple, beneath this cold slab, he who lied in the chapel now lies in the abbey. January 1820. Sure. Let's see. On an address to Queen Caroline. So I think this next section is all part of the same. Interesting. On an address to Queen Caroline, stanzas. When a man hath no freedom to fight for at home, let him combat for that of his neighbors. Let him think of the glories of Greece and of Rome, and get knocked on the head for his labors. To do good to mankind is the chivalrous plan, and is always as nobly requited. Then battle for freedom wherever you can, and if not, shot or hanged, you'll get knighted. Interesting. Epigram. The world is a bundle of hay. Mankind are the asses who pull. Each tugs it a different way, and the greatest of all is John Bull. That is definitely some of his satirical poetry from the era. The Charity Ball. What matter the pangs of a husband and father if his sorrows to exile be great or be small? So the Pharisees? Yeah. So the Pharisees' glories around her she gather, and the saint patronizes her charity ball. What matters? A heart which, though faulty, was feeling, be driven to excesses which one could appall. That the sinner should suffer is only fair dealing, as the saint keeps her charity back for the ball. This one's another epigram. On the braziers, on the braziers, company having resolved to present. Oh, English. It's such an amazing language. You have to read it in full context before you know which word it is. On the braziers, company having resolved to present an address to Queen Caroline. Fun times. The braziers, it seems, are preparing to pass an address and present it themselves all in brass. A superfluous pageant, for by the Lord Harry, they'll find where they're going much more than they carry. Epigram on My Wedding Day. To Penelope. This day of all our days has done the worst for me and you. 'Tis just 6 years since we were one, and 5 since we were two. This day of all our days has done the worst for me and you. 'Tis just 6 years since we were one, and 5 since we were two. Then why get married? If 6 years ago you were one in thought and consciousness and holding hands and revelry, and a year later, two separate individuals no longer connected to one another, why wed? That's so weird to me. On my 33rd birthday, January 22nd of 1821. I guess Lord Byron's birthday was recent. Through life's dull road, so dim and dirty, I have dragged to 3 and 30, What have these years left to me? Nothing except 33. Epigrams. So Castlereagh has cut his throat. The worst of this is that his own was not the first. So he has cut his throat at last. He, who? The man who cut his country's long ago. Wow. Some more of that satire. John Keats. Interesting. Who killed John Keats? I, says the Quarterly, so savage and tartarly, 'twas one of my feats. Who shot the arrow? The poet, priest, millman, so ready to kill man, or Southey or Barrow. To Mr. Murray. For Orford and for Waldegrave, you give much more than me you gave, which is not fairly to behave, my Murray. Because if a live dog, 'tis said, be worth a lion fairly sped, a live lord must be worth 2 dead, my Murray. And if, as the opinion goes, verse hath a better sale than prose, certes I should have more than those, my Murray. But now, this sheet is nearly crammed, so if you will, I shan't be shammed, and if you won't, you may be damned, my Murray. The Irish Avatar. And Ireland, like a bastardoned elephant, kneeling to receive the poultry rider, Quran. Interesting. Ere the daughter of Brunswick is cold in her grave, and her ashes still float to their home over the tide, lo, George the triumphant speeds over the wave to the long-cherished isle which he loved like his bride. True, the great of her bright and brief era was gone, the rainbow-like epoch where freedom could pause for the few little years out of centuries won, which betrayed not, or crushed not, or wept not her cause. True, the chains of the Catholic clank over his rags, the castle still stands, and the senate's no more, and the famine which dwelt on her freedomless crags is extending its steps to her desolate shore. To her desolate shore, where the emigrant stands for a moment to gaze ere he flies from his hearth. Tears fall on his chain, though it drops from his hands, for the dungeon he quits is the place of his birth. But he comes, the Messiah of royalty comes, like a goodly Leviathan rolled from the waves. Then receive him, as best such an advent becomes, with a legion of cooks and an army of slaves. He comes in the promise and bloom of 80, to perform in the pageant the sovereign's part. But long live the shamrock, which shadows him over. Could the green in his hat be transferred to his heart? Could that long withered spot but be verdant again, and a new spring of noble affections rise? Arise, then might freedom forgive thee this dance in thy chain, and this shout of thy slavery which saddens the skies. Is it madness or meanness which clings to thee now, were he God, as he is but the commonest clay, with scarce fewer wrinkles than sins on his brow, such servile devotion might shame him away. Aye, roar in his train, let thine orators lash their fanciful spirits to pamper his pride. Not thus did thy gratin indignantly flash. His soul over the freedom implored and denied. Ever glorious Grattan, the best of the good, so simple in heart, so sublime in the rest, with all which Demosthenes With all which Demosthenes wanted ensued, and his rival or victor in all he possessed. Ere Tuli arose to in the zenith of Rome, though unequalled, proceeded the task was begun. But Grattan sprung up like a god from the tomb of ages, the first, last, the savior, the one. With the skill of an Orpheus to soften the brute, with the fire of Prometheus to kindle mankind, even tyranny listening sate melted or mute, and corruption shrunk scorched from the glance of his mind. But back to our theme, back to the despots and slaves, feasts furnished by famine, rejoicing by pain, true freedom but welcomes, while slavery still raves. When a week's Saturnalia hath loosened her chain, let the poor squalid splendor thy wreck can afford, as the bankrupt's profusion his ruin would hide. Gild over the palace, lo, Aaron thy lord, kiss his foot with thy blessing, his blessings denied. Or if freedom past hope be extorted at last, if the idol of brass find his feet are of clay, must what terror or policy ring forth he be classed? With what monarchs never give, but as wolves yield their prey? Each brute hath its nature, a king is to reign, to reign. In that world see ye, ages comprise the cause of curses all annals contain. The cause of the curses all annals contain, from Caesar the dreaded to George the despised. Where, Fingal, thy trapping, O'Connell proclaim his accomplishments, his, and thy country convince half an age's contempt was an error of fame, and that Hal is the rascaliest, sweetest young prince. Will thy yard of blue riband? Will thy yard of blue riband poor Fingal recall? The fetters from millions of Catholic limbs, or has it not bound thee the fastest of all? The slaves who now hail their betrayer with hymns, aye, build him a dwelling, let each give him might, till like Babel the new royal dome hath arisen. Let thy beggars and helots their pittance unite, and a palace bestow for a poorhouse and a prison. Spread for Vitellius? Yes, spread for Vitellius the royal repast, till the gluttonous despot be stuffed to the gorge, and the roar of his drunkards proclaim him at last the fourth of the fools the oppressors called George. Let the tables be loaded with feasts, till they groan like thy people through ages of woe. Let the wine flow around the old Bacchanal's throne, like their blood which has flowed and which yet has to flow. But let not his name be thine idol alone. On his right hand, behold, a Sejanus appears, thine own Castlereagh. Let him still be thine own, a wretch never named but with curses and jeers. Till now, when the isle which should blush from his birth, deep as the gore which he shed on her soil, seems proud of the reptile, seems proud of the reptile which crawled from her earth, and for murder repays him with shouts and a smile, without one single ray of her genius, without the fancy, the manhood, the fire of her race. The miscreant who well might plunge Aaron in doubt, if she ever gave birth to a being so base. If she did, let her long boasted proverb be hushed, which proclaims that from Erin no reptile can spring. See the cold-blooded serpent, with venom full flushed, still warming its folds in the breast of a king. Shout, drink, feast, and flatter. Oh, Erin, how low wert thou sunk by misfortune and tyranny, till thy welcome of tyrants hath plunged thee below the depth of thy deep in a deeper gulf still. My voice, though but humble, was raised for thy right. My vote as a free man's still voted thee free. This hand, though but feeble, would arm in thy fight, and this heart, though outworn, had a throb still for thee. Yes, I loved thee and thine, though thou art not my land. I have known noble hearts and great souls in thy sons, and I wept for the world over the patriot band who are gone, but I weep them no longer as once. For happy are they now, reposing afar. Thy Grattan, thy Curran, thy Sheridan, all, who for years were the chieftains in the eloquent war, who for years were the chiefs in the eloquent war, and redeemed if they have not retarded thy fall. Yes, happy are they in their cold English graves. Their shades cannot start to thy shouts of today, nor the steps of enslavers and chain-kissing slaves be stamped in the turf over the fetterless clay. Till now I had envied thy sons and their shore. Though their virtues were hunted, their liberties fled, there was something so warm and sublime in the core of an Irishman's heart that I envy thy dead. Or if aught is in my bosom can quench for an hour my contempt for a nation so servile, though sore, which though trod like the worm will not turn upon power, 'tis the glory of Grattan and genius of Moore. That was a beefy one. I'm going to go ahead and take us into a quick ad break while I go use the restroom and rehydrate. So I'll be right back. Okay, we are back. Let's see. The Irish Avatar, finished that one. The stanzas written on the road between Florence and Pisa. Okay. Oh, thank you, Teeth. Good call. Little drinking ASMR for you. Hooray. Let's see. Stanzas written on the road between Florence and Pisa. Oh, talk not to me of a name great in story. The days of our youth are the days of our glory, and the myrtle and ivy of sweet 22 are worth all your laurels, though ever so plenty. What are the garlands and crowns to the brow that is wrinkled? 'Tis but as a dead flower with May-dew besprinkled. Then away with all such from the head that is hoary. What care I for the wreaths that can only give glory? O Fame, if I ever took delight in thy praises, 'twas less for the sake of thy hand-sounding praises. 'Twas less for the sake of thy high-sounding phrases, than to see the bright eyes of the dear one discover she thought that I was not unworthy to love her. There, chiefly I sought thee, there only I found thee. Her glance was the best of the rays that surround thee, when it sparkled over aught that was bright in my story. I knew it was love, and I felt it was glory. November 1821. On this day, I complete my 36th year. Ooh. Missolonghi, January 22nd, 1824. 'Tis time this heart should be unmoved, since others it hath ceased to move. Yet, though I cannot be beloved, still let me love. My days are in the yellow leaf. The flowers and fruits of love are gone. The worm, the canker, and the grief are mine alone. The fire that on my bosom preys is lone as some volcanic isle, nor torch is kindled at its blaze a funeral pile. The hope, the fear, the jealous care, the exalted portion of the pain and power of love I cannot share, but wear the chain. But this not thus, but 'tis not thus, and 'tis not here. Such thoughts should shake my soul, nor now, where glory bedecks the hero's bier, or binds his brow. The sword, the banner, and the field, glory and Greece around me see. The Spartan, borne upon his shield, was not more free. Awake, not Greece, she is awake. Awake, my spirit, think through whom thy life-blood tracks its parent lake, and then strike home. Tread those reviving passions down, unworthy manhood. Unto thee indifferent should the smile or frown of beauty be. If thou regrettest thy youth, why live? The land of honorable death is here. Up to the field and give away thy breath. Seek out, less often sought than found, a soldier's grave for thee the best. Then look around, and choose thy ground, and take thy rest. English Bards and Scotch Reviewers. I guess this would be another chapter, technically. The way this book is broken up is kind of interesting. Okay, so this is another section of the book, I guess. Fair enough. English Bards and Scotch Reviewers. Still must I hear. Shall Horace Fitzgerald bawl his creaking couplets in a tavern hall, and I not sing, lest happily Scotch reviews should dub me scribbler and denounce my muse? Prepare for rhyme. I'll publish right or wrong. Fools are my theme, let satire be my song. Oh, nature's noblest gift, my grey goose quill, slave of my thoughts, obedient to my will, torn from thy parent bird to form a pen, that mighty instrument of little men, the pen, foredoomed to aid the mental throes of brains that labor big with verse or prose. Though nymphs forsake and critics may deride the lover's solace and the author's pride. What wits, what poets dost thou daily raise? How frequent is thy use? How small thy praise? Condemned at length to be forgotten quite, with all the pages which 'twas thine to write. But thou, at least mine own especial pen, once laid aside but now assumed again, our task complete, like Hamet's shall be free, though spurned by others, yet beloved by me. Then let us soar today, no common theme, no eastern vision, no distempered dream inspires our path. Though full of thorns is plain, smooth be the verse and easy be the strain. When vice triumphant holds her sovereign sway, obeyed by all who not beside obey. When folly, frequent harbinger of crime, bedecks her cap with bells of every clime, when knaves and fools combined over all prevail, and weigh their justice in a golden scale, even then the boldest start from public sneers, afraid of shame unknown to other fears, more darkly sin, by satire kept in awe, and shrink from ridicule, though not from law. Such is the force of wit, but not belong to me the arrows of satiric song. The royal vices of our age demand a keener weapon and a mightier hand. Still there are follies, even for me to chase, and yield at least amusement in the race. Laugh when I laugh, I seek no other fame. Thy cry is up, and scribblers are my game. Speed, Pegasus, ye strains of great and small, ode, epic, eulogy. Ode, epic, eulogy, have at you all. I too can scrawl, and once upon a time I poured along the town a flood of rhyme. A schoolboy freak, unworthy praise or blame, I printed. Older children do the same. 'Tis pleasant, sure, to see one's name in print. A book, although there's nothing in it. Not that a title-sounding charm can save, or scrawl or scribbler from an equal grave. This Lamb must own, since his patrician name failed to preserve the spurious farce from shame. No matter, George continues still to write, though now the name is veiled from public sight. Moved by the great example, I pursue the same road, but make my own review. Not seek great Jeffreys, yet, like him, will be self-constituted judge of poesy. A man must serve his time to every trade save censure. Critics all are ready made. Take hackneyed jokes from Miller, got by rote, with just enough of learning to misquote. A mind well skilled to find or forge a fault, a turn for punning, call it Attic salt. To Geoffrey Goad, be silent and discreet. His pay is just 10 sterling pounds per sheet. Fear not to lie, 'twill seem a sharper hit. Shrink not from blasphemy, 'twill pass for wit. Care not for feeling, pass your proper jest, and stand a critic, hated yet caressed. And shall we own such judgment? No, as soon as seek roses in December, ice in June, hope constancy in wind, or corn in chaff. Believe a woman or an epitaph, or any other thing that's false, before you trust in critics who themselves are sore, or yield one single thought to be misled by Geoffrey's heart or Lamb's Boeotian head. To these young tyrants, by themselves misplaced, combined usurpers on the throne of taste, to these, when authors bend in humble awe, and hail their voice as truth, their word as law. While these are censors, 'twould be sin to spare, while such are critics, why should I forbear? And yet, so near all modern so near all modern worthies run, 'tis doubtful whom to speak, of whom to shun. Nor know we when to spare or where to strike. Our bards and censors are so much alike. Then should you ask me why I venture over the path which Pope and Gifford trod before, if not yet sickened, you can still proceed. Go on, my rhyme will tell you as you read. But hold, exclaims a friend, here's some neglect, this, that, and othered, and to other lines seem incorrect. What then? The selfsame blunder Pope has got, and careless Dryden. Ay, but Pye has not. Indeed, 'tis granted, faith. But what care I? Better to err with Pope than shine with Pye. Time was, ere yet in these degenerate days, ignoble themes obtained mistaken praise. When sense and wit with poesy allied, no fabled graces flourished side by side. From the same fount their inspiration drew, and reared by taste, bloomed fairer as they grew. Then, in this happy isle, a Pope's pure strain sought the rapt soul to charm, nor sought in vain. A polished nations, praised, aspired, declaim, and raise the peoples as the poet's fame. Like him, great Dryden poured the tide of song in stream less smooth, indeed, yet doubly strong. Than Congreve's scenes could cheer or Otway's melt, for nature then as English audience felt. For nature then an for nature then an English audience felt. But why these names, or greater still retrace, when all to feebler bards resign their place? Yet to such times our lingering looks are cast, when taste and reason with those times are past. Now look around and turn each trifling page, survey the precious works that please the age. This truth at least let satire's self allow, no dearth of bards can be complained of now. The loaded press beneath her labor groans, and printers' devils shake their weary bones. While Southey's epics cram the creaking shelves, and Little's lyrics shine in hot-pressed 12s. Thus saith the preacher, Not beneath the sun is new. Yet still from change to change we run, what varied wonders tempt us as they pass. The cowpox, tractors, galvanism, and gas in turns appear to make the vulgar stare, till the swoln bubble burst, and all is air. nor less new schools of poetry arise, where dull pretenders grapple for the prize. Over taste a while these pseudo-bards prevail, each country book club bows the knee to Baal, and, hurling lawful genius from the throne, erects a shrine, an idol of its own, some leaden calf, but whom it matters not, from soaring Southey down to grovelling Stot. Behold, in various throngs the scribbling crew, for notice eager, pass in long review. Each spurns his jaded Pegasus apace, and rhyme and blank maintain an equal race. Sonnets on sonnets crowd, and ode on ode, and tales of terror jostle on the road. Immeasurable measures move along, for simpering folly loves a varied song. To strange, mysterious dullness still the friend admires the strange she cannot comprehend. Thus lays of minstrels, may they be the last, on half-strung harps whine mournful to the blast, while mountain spirits prate to river sprites, that dames may listen to the sound at nights, and goblin breaths of Gilpin corners brood, decoy young border nobles through the wood. Broodwood? You lost me there, Byron. And skip at every step, Lord knows how high, and frighten foolish babes, the Lord knows why, while high-born ladies in their magic cell, forbidding knights to read who cannot spell, dispatch a courier to a wizard's grave, and fight with honest men to shield a knave. Next, view in state proud prancing on his roan the golden-crested haughty Marmion. Now forging scrolls, now foremost in the fight, not quite a felon, yet but half a knight. The gibbet or the field prepared to grace a mighty mixture of the great and base. And thinkest thou, Scot, by vain conceit perchance, on public taste to foist thy stale romance? Though Murray with his miller may combine to yield thy muse just half a crown per line? No. When the sons of song descend to trade, their bays are sere, their former laurels fade. Let such forgo the poet's sacred name, who rack their brains for lucre, not for fame. Still, for stern Mammon may they toil in vain, and sadly gaze on gold they cannot gain. Such be their meed, such still the just reward of prostituted muse and hireling bard. For this we spurn Apollo's venal son, and bid a long good night to Marmion. These are the themes that claim our plaudits now. These are the bards to whom the muse must bow, while Milton, Dryden, Pope alike forgot, resigned their hallowed bays to Walter Scott. The time has been when yet the muse was young, when Homer swept the lyre and Marrow sung. An epic scarce 10 centuries could claim, while awestruck nations hailed the magic name. The work of each immortal bard appears, the single wonder of 1,000 years. Empires have mouldered from the face of the earth. Tongues have expired with those who gave them birth, without the glory such a strain can give, as even in ruin bids the language live. Not so with us. Though minor bards content on one great work a life of labor spent. With eagle pinion soaring to the skies, behold the ballad monger Southey rise. To him let Camoens, Milton, Tasso yield, whose annual strains like armies take the field. First in the ranks see Joan of Arc advance, the scourge of England and the boast of France. Though burnt by wicked Bedford for a witch, behold her statue placed in glory's niche. Her fetters burst, and just released from prison, a virgin phoenix from her ashes arisen. Ashes risen. Next, see tremendous Thalaba, come on, Arabia's monstrous, wild, and wondrous son, Dom Daniel's dread destroyer, who overthrew more mad magicians than the world ever knew. Immortal hero, all thy foes overcome, forever reign the rival of Tom Thumb. Since startled meter fled before thy face, well wert thou doomed the last of thy race. Well might triumphant genie bear thee hence, illustrious conqueror of common sense. Now last and greatest, Madoc spreads his sails, Cacique in Mexico and Prince in Wales. Tells us strange tales as other travelers do, more old than Mondeville's, and not so true. Oh, Southey, Southey, cease thy varied song, a bard may chant too often and too long. As thou art strong in verse, in mercy spare, a fourth, alas, were more than we could bear. But if, in spite of all the world can say, thou still wilt verseward plod thy weary way, if still in Berkeley ballads most uncivil thou wilt devote old women to the devil, the babe unborn thy dread intent may rue, God help thee, Southey, and thy readers too. Next comes the dull disciple of thy school, that mild apostate from poetic rule, the simple Wordsworth, framer of a lay, as soft as evening in his favorite May, who warns his friend to shake off toil and trouble and quit his books for fear of growing double, who both by precept and example shows that prose in verse and verse is merely prose, convincing all, by demonstration plain, poetic souls delight in prose insane. And Christmas stories, tortured into rhyme, contain the essence of the true sublime. Thus, when he tells the tale of Betty Foy, the idiot mother of an idiot boy, a moonstruck, silky lad. Silly? I think that's silly. A moonstruck, silly lad who lost his way, and like his bard confounded night with day. So close on each pathetic part he dwells, and each adventure so sublimely tells, that all who view the idiot in his glory conceive the bard the hero of the story. Shall gentle Coleridge pass unnoticed here, to turgid ode and tumid stanza dear? Though themes of innocence amuse him best, yet still obscurity a welcome guest. Yet still obscurity's a welcome guest. If inspiration should her aid refuse to him who takes a pixie for a muse, yet none in lofty numbers can surpass the bard who soars to eulogize an ass. So well the subject suits his noble mind, he brays the laureate of the long-eared kind. O wonder-working Lewis, monk or bard, who fain wouldst make Parnassus a churchyard, lo, wreaths of yew, not laurel, bind thy brow, thy muse a sprite, Apollo's sexton thou. Whether on ancient tombs thou takest thy stand, whether on ancient tombs thou takest thy stand, by gibbering spectres hailed, thy kindred band, or tracest chaste descriptions on thy page, to please the females of our modest age, all hail MP, from whose infernal brain thin sheet phantoms glide a grisly train, at whose command grim women throng in crowds, and kings of fire, of water, and of clouds, with small grave men, wild yagers, and what not, to crown with honor thee and Walter Scott. Again, all hail! If tales like thine may please, St. Luke alone can vanquish the disease. Even Satan's self with thee might dread to dwell, and in thy skull discern a deeper hell. Who, in soft guise, surrounded by a choir of virgins melting not to Vesta's fire, with sparkling eyes and cheek of passion flushed, strikes with wild lyre, whilst listening dames are hushed. 'Tis little young Catullus of his day, young Catullus of his day, as sweet but as immoral in his lay, grieved to condemn. The muse must still be just, nor spare melodious advocates of lust. Pure is the flame which over her altar burns, from grosser incense with disgust she turns, yet youth to kind this expiation over, she bids thee mend thy line and sin no more. For thee, translator of the tinsel song, to whom such glittering ornaments belong, Hibernian Strangford, with thine eyes of blue, and boasted locks of red or auburn hue, whose plaintive strain each lovesick miss admires, and over harmonious fustian half expires. Learn, if thou canst, to yield thine author's sense, nor vend thy sonnets on a false pretense. Thinkest thou to gain thy verse a higher place by dressing Camoens in suits of lace? Mend, Strangford, mend thy morals and thy taste. Be warm but pure, be amorous but be chaste. Cease to deceive, thy pilfered harp restore, nor teach the Lusian bard to copy more. Behold, ye tarts, one moment spare the text, Halley's last work and worst, until his next. Whether he spin poor couplets into plays, or damn the dead with purgatorial praise, his style in youth or age is still the same, forever feeble and forever tame. Triumphant first see, temper's triumphs shine. At least I'm sure they triumphed over mine. Of music's triumphs, all who read may swear that luckless music never triumphed there. Moravians, rise, bestow some meet reward on dull devotion. Lo, the Sabbath bard, sepulchral Graham, pours his notes sublime in mangled prose, nor even aspires to rhyme, breaks into blanks the Gospel of St. Luke, and boldly pilfers from the Pentateuch, and undisturbed by conscientious qualms, perverts the prophets and purloins the psalms. Hail sympathy, hail sympathy, thy soft idea brings 1,000 visions of 1,000 things, and shows, still whimpering through 80 of years, the maudlin prince of mournful sonneteers. And art thou not their prince, harmonious bowls, thou first great oracle of tender souls? Whether thou singest with equal ease and grief the fall of empires, or a yellow leaf. Whether thy muse most lamentably tells what merry sounds proceed from Oxford bells, or still, in bells delighting, finds a friend in every chime that jingled from Ostend. Ah, how much juster were thy muse's hap, if to thy bells thou wouldst but add a cap. Delightful bowls, still blessing and still blessed, all love thy strain, but children like it best. 'Tis thine, with gentle Little's moral song, to soothe the mania of the amorous throng. With thee our nursery damsels shed their tears, ere miss as yet complete her infant years. ere miss at yet ere miss as yet completes her infant years. But in her teens thy whining powers are vain. She quits poor bowls for little's pure strain. Now to soft themes thou scornest to confine the lofty numbers of a harp like thine. Awake a louder and a loftier strain, such as none heard before or will again, where all discoveries jumbled from the flood, since first the leaky ark reposed in mud, by more or less are sung in every book, from Captain Noah down to Captain Cook. Nor this alone, but pausing on the road, the bard sighs forth a gentle episode, and gravely tells attend each beauteous miss, when first Madeira trembled to a kiss. Bowls, in thy memory let this precept dwell. Stick to thy sonnets, man, at least they sell. But if some newborn whim or larger bribe prompt thy crude brain and claim thee for a scribe, if chance some bard, though once by dunces feared, now prone in dust, can only be revered. If Pope, whose fame and genius from the first have foiled the best of critics, needs the worst, do thou essay each fault, each failing man, give me a second. This one poem is so beefy, I'm losing my voice. Pardon. Do thou essay each fault, each failing scan. The first of poets was, alas, but man. Rake from each ancient dunghill every pearl. Consult Lord Fanny and confide in Curl. Oof. Let all the scandals of a former age perch on thy pen and flutter over thy page. Affect a candor which thou canst not feel. Clothe envy in the garb of honest zeal. Write as if St. John's soul could still inspire, and do from hate what Mallet did for hire. Oh, hadst thou lived in that congenial time, to rave with Dennis and with Ralph to rhyme, thronged with the rest around his living head, not raised thy hoof against the lion's dead. A meet reward had crowned thy glorious gains, and linked thee to the Dunnaclad for thy pains. And linked thee to the Dunciad for thy pains. I'm not sure what that word is. I have no definition found. Nothing. I got nothing. Okay. Whew. Okay. We got this. Another epic. Who inflicts again more books of blank upon the sons of men? Boeotian coddle, rich Bristowa's boast, imports old stories from the Cambrian coast, and sends his goods to market, all alive. Lines 40,000, cantos 25. Fresh fish from Helicon, who'll buy? The precious bargains, cheap, in faith not I. Your turtle feeder's verse must needs be flat. Though Bristol bloat him with that verdant fat. If commerce fills the purse, she clogs the brain, and Amos Coddle strikes the lyre in vain. In him an author's luckless lot behold, condemned to make the books which once he sold. O Amos Coddle, Phoebus, what a name to fill the speaking trump of future fame! O Amos Coddle, for a moment think what meager profits spring from pen and ink. When thus devoted to poetic dreams, who will pursue thy prostituted reams? O pen perverted, paper misapplied, had Coddle still adorned the counter's side, bent over the desk, or born to useful toils, been taught to make the paper which he soils, ploughed, delved, or plied the oar with lusty limb, he had not sung of whales, nor I of him. As Sisyphus against the infernal sleep rolls the huge rock whose motions never may sleep, So up thy hill ambrosial Richmond heaves, dull Maurice all his granite weight of leaves. Smooth, solid monuments of mental pain, the petrifications of a plodding brain, that ere they reach the top fall lumbering back again. With broken lyre and cheek serenely pale, lo, sad Alcaeus wanders down the vale. Alcaeus? Yeah. Lo, said Alcaeus wanders down the vale. Though fair they rose, and might have bloomed at last, his hopes have perished by the northern blast. Nipped in the bud by Caledonian gales, his blossoms wither as the blast prevails. Over his lost works let classic Sheffield weep. May no rude hand disturb their early sleep. Yet say, why should the bard at once resign his claim to favor from the sacred nine? Forever startled by the mingling howl of northern wolves that still in the darkness prowl. A coward brood, which mangle as they prey, by hellish instinct all that cross their way. Aged or young, the living or the dead, no mercy find, these harpies must be fed. Why do the injured unresisting yield the calm possession of their native field? Why tamely thus before their fangs retreat, nor hunt the bloodhounds back to Arthur's seat? Heath, health to immortal Geoffrey, once in name, England could boast a judge almost the same, in soul so alike, so merciful yet just. Some think that Satan has resigned his trust, and given the spirit to the world again, to sentence letters as he sentenced men, with hand less mighty, but with heart as black, with voice as willing to decree the rack. Bred in the courts betimes, though all that law as yet hath taught him is to find a flaw, since well instructed in the patriot school, to rail at party, though a party tool. Who knows? If chance his patrons could restore back to the sway they're forfeited before, his scribbling toils some recompense may meet, and raise the Daniel to the judgment seat. Let Geoffrey Shade indulge the pious hope, and greeting thus present him with a rope. Heir to my virtues, man of equal mind, skilled to condemn as to traduce mankind. This cord receive, for thee reserved with care, to wield in judgment and at length to wear. Health to great Geoffrey, heaven preserve his life, to flourish on the fertile shores of Fife, and guard it sacred in its future wars, since authors sometimes seek the field of Mars. Can none remember that eventful day, that ever glorious, almost fatal fray, when Little's leadless pistol met his eye, and Bow Street Myrmidon stood laughing by? O day disastrous! On her firm-set rock, Dunedin's castle felt a secret shock. Dark rolled the sympathetic waves of Forth. Low groaned the startling whirlwinds of the north. Tweed ruffled half his waves to form a tier, the other half pursued its calm career. Arthur's steep summit nodded to its base. The surly Tolbooth scarcely kept her place. And Tolbooth felt, for marble sometimes can, on such occasions feel as much as man. The Tolbooth felt defrauded of his charms, if Geoffrey died except within her arms. Nay, last, not least, on that portentous morn, the 16th story where himself was born, his patrimonial garret fell to ground, and pale Edna shuddered at the sound. And pale Edina? I'm going to go with Edina. And paled Edina shuddered at the sound. Strewed were the streets around with milk-white reams, flowed all the Canongate with inky streams. This of his candour seemed the sable dew, that of his valour showed the bloodless hue, and all with justice deemed the two combined, the mingled emblems of his mighty mind. But Caledonia's goddess hovered over the field and saved him from the wrath of Moor. From either pistol snatched the vengeful lead? Yes. From either pistol snatched the vengeful lead, and straight restored it to her favorite's head. That head, with greater than magnetic power, caught it as Danae caught the golden shower. And though the thickening dross, with scarce refine, augments its ore, and is itself a mine. My son, she cried, never thirst for gore again. Resign the pistol and resume the pen. Over politics and poesy preside. Boast of thy countryside and Britannia's guide. For long as Albion's heed sums submit, for Scottish taste decides on English wit, so long shall last thine unmolested reign, nor any dare to take thy name in vain. Behold, a chosen band shall aid thy pain, and own thee chieftain of the Cretic clan. Aid thy plan, and own thee chieftain of the Critic clan. First, in the oat-fed phalanx shall be seen the travelled thane Athenian Aberdeen. Herbert shall wield the Thor's hammer, and sometimes, in gratitude, thou'lt praise his rugged rhymes. Smug Sidney, too, thy bitter page shall seek, and classic Hallam, much renowned for Greek. Scott may perchance his name and influence lend, and paltry Pillion shall traduce his friend. While gay Thalia's luckless votary lamb, damned like the devil-like with dam. Known be thy name, unbounded be thy sway, thy Holland's banquet shall each toil repay, while grateful Britain yields the praise she owes to Holland's hirelings and to learning's foes. Yet mark one caution ere the next review spread thy next review spread its light wings of saffron and of blue. Beware lest blundering brougham destroy the sail, turn beef to bannocks and cauliflowers to kale. Ugh, kale, gross. Thus, having said, the kilted goddess kissed her son and vanished in a Scottish mist. Then prosper, Geoffrey. Pertest of the train, whom Scotland pampers with her fiery grain. I'm going to pause for a second. How much more of this is there? Oh my goodness gracious me. It never ends. Okay. Bow, 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 bow. Okay, here's the plan. I have to take another 10-minute break, or not 10-minute break. I have to take another ad break in 10 minutes. There we go. Haha. I'm going to get as far as I can up to that point. And then when we come back, we're going to finish this incredibly long Scotch review poem. And then I'm going to call it for today, because this thing is a beast and it's very mentally taxing with the cadence and some of the word choices. So let's see how far we can get in the next 10 minutes, and then we'll go on break, and then we'll wrap it up when I come back. I can feel myself begin to wane, and of those things I cannot regain. I don't know. Here we get too much prose, and all of a sudden everything starts to rhyme. Okay, we got this. Am I on the right page? Oh my god, there's so much. I have completely lost. Anyone know what page I was on before? Boeotian Coddle. Okay, we definitely went there. A little further. Spread its light wings of saffron and blue. Definitely read that. No, here we are. 108. We got this. Then prosper, Geoffrey, pertest of the train, whom Scotland pampers with her fiery grain. Whatever blessing waits a genuine Scot, in double portion swells with thy glorious lot. For thee, yep, we're here. For thee, Adina culls her evening sweets, and showers their odors on thy candid sheets, whose hue and fragrance to thy work adhere. This scents its pages, and that gilds its rear. Lo, blushing itch, coy nymph, enamored grown, forsakes the rest and cleaves to thee alone. And too unjust to other Pictish men, enjoys thy person and inspires thy pen. Oh my. Illustrious Holland, hard would be his lot, his hirelings mentioned and himself forgot. Holland with Henry Petty at his back, the whipper in and huntsman of the pack. Blessed be the banquet spread at Holland House, where Scotsmen feed and critics may carouse. Long, long beneath that hospitable roof shall Grub Street dine, while duns are kept aloof. See honest Hallam lay aside his fork, resume his pen, review his lordship's work, and grateful for the dainties on his plate, declare his landlord can at least translate. Dunedin, view thy children with delight. They write for food and feed because they write. And lest, when heated with the unusual grape, some growing thoughts should to the press escape, and tinge with red the female reader's cheek, my lady skims the cream of each critique, breathes over the page her purity of soul, reforms each error and refines the whole. Now to the drama turn. Oh, motley sight! What precious scenes the wandering eye invite! Puns and a prince with a barrel pent, and Dibdin's nonsense yield complete content. Content. Yes. And Dibdin's nonsense yield complete content. Though now, thank heaven, the Rosciomania's over, and full-grown actors are endured once more. Yet what avail their vain attempts to please, while British critics suffer scenes like these? While Reynolds vents his damns, poos, and zounds, and commonplace and common sense confounds. While Kenny's world, where is Kenny's wit? Tires the sad gallery, lulls the listless pit, and Beaumont's pilfered car-attacks affords a tragedy complete in all but words. Who but must mourn, while these are all the rage, the degradation of our vaunted stage? Heavens! Is all sense of shame and talent gone? Have we no living bard of merit, none? Awake, George Coleman, Cumberland, awake! Ring the alarm bell, let folly quake. O Sheridan, if aught can move thy pen, let comedy assume her throne again. Abjure the mummery of the German schools, leave new Pizarros to translating fools. Give, as thy last memorial to the age, one classic drama and reform the stage. Gods, over those boards shall folly rear her head, where Garrick trod and Siddons lived to tread. On those shall farce display buffoonery's mask, and Hook conceal his heroes in a cask. Shall sapient managers new scenes produce from Cherry, Skeffington, and Mother Goose? While Shakespeare Otway Messenger forgot, on stalls must moulder or in closets rot? Lo, with what pomp the daily prints proclaim the rival candidates for Addy? I'm not sure. It is Attic. So that's a C, not an E. Okay. The rival candidates for Attic fame In grim away, though Lewis spectres rise, still Skeffington and Goose defied the prize. And sure, great Skeffington must claim our prize for skirtless coats and skeletons of plays, renowned alike, whose genius never confines her flight to garnish Greenwood's gay designs, nor sleeps with sleeping beauties, but anon in 5 facetious acts comes thundering on. While poor John Bull, bewildered with the scene, stares wondering what the devil it can mean. But as some hands applaud a venial few, rather than sleep, why John applauds it too. Such are we now. Ah, wherefore should we turn to what our fathers were, unless to mourn? Degenerate Britons, are ye dead to shame, or kind to dullness, do you fear to blame? Well may the nobles of your present race watch each distortion of Naldi's face. Well may they smile on Italy's buffoons and worship Catalani's pantaloons. Oh my goodness. And worship Catalani's pantaloons. Since their own drama yields no fairer trace of wit than puns or humor than grimace. Then let Ausonia, then let Ausonia skilled in every art to soften manners but corrupt the heart, pour her exotic follies over the town to sanction vice and hunt decorum down. Let wedded strumpets languish over Deshays, and bless the promise which his form displays, while Gayton bounds before the enraptured looks of hoary marquises and stripling dukes. Marquises? Of hoary marquises and stripling dukes. Let high-born lechers eye the lively Pressel, twirl her light limbs that spurn the needless veil. Let Angiolini bear her breast of snow, wave the white arm and point the pliant toe. Collini trill her love-inspiring song, strain her fair neck and charm the listening throng. Whet not your scythe, suppressors of our vice, reforming saints too delicately nice. By whose decrees our sinful souls to save, no Sunday tankards foam, no barbers shave, and beer, undrawn, and beards unmown, display your holy reverence for the Sabbath day. Or hail at once the patrons and the pile of vice and folly, Greville and Argyle. Where yon proud palace fashions hallowed fane spreads wide her portals for the motley train. Behold the new Petronius of the day, our arbiter of pleasure and of play. There the hired eunuch, the Hesperian choir. Pause. For a very long time, I knew what a eunuch was. Like I knew what the definition of it was, but for the longest time in my brain, I read it as eunuch or eunuch. It's like, what is an eunuch? No, I know what that is. Okay. I don't know. One of those things that stick by you for a long time and you remember. There the hired eunuch, the Hesperian choir, the meeting lute, the soft lascivious lyre. The song from Italy, the step from France, the midnight orgy and the mazy dance. The smile of beauty and the flush of wine for fops, fools, gamesters, knaves, and lords combine. Each to his humor Comus all allows. Campaign, dice, music, or your neighbor's spouse. Talk not to us, ye starving sons of trade, of piteous ruin which ourselves have made. In plenty's sunshine fortune's minions bask, nor think of poverty except in mask. Win for the night some lately titled ass. Win for the night some lately titled ass, appears the beggar which his grandsire was. The curtain dropped, the gay burletta over, the audience take their turn upon the floor. Now round the room the circling dowagers sweep, now in loose waltz the thin-clad daughters leap. The first in lengthened line majestic swim, the last display the free, unfettered limb. Those for Hibernia's lusty sons repair. Oh, is it time for an ad? I think it might be. Well, I'll finish the thing, and I'm sorry to those that are seeing ads. For those for those for Hibernia's lusty sons repair, with art the charms which nature could not spare. These after husbands ring their eager flight, nor leave much mystery for the nuptial night. Oh, I guess we're on ad break. I let it cook, and it went to the end of the stanza. Stanza? Couplet? No. Canto, I think. Anyway, we're on a quick ad break, so I just thought I'd touch bases with everybody. This poem is quite the epic on its own. I mean, it's obviously no Odyssey, but it is quite intense. And I mean, the majority of this entire poem is he's just critiquing other poets and like saying they're garbage. It's like, nope, you're trash, you're trash. If only the poets of yesteryear would come back to life and bring us, fresh words. That poets like Shakespeare are doomed to attics or closets and forgotten. It's quite intense, I think. We are on page 111, and this poem goes on and on and on and on. Oh, wait, I think we got it. Okay. Whew. Okay, so 122. You see it? It stops there. So 11 more pages. And then I'm going to call it for today because I'm getting wrecked. And not the fun kind. Okay. The ad is still going for the next minute. So do. It's kind of boring when I'm not sitting here reading. No new friends today, but that's okay. Yeah. I don't know what it was. I had the most surreal dream earlier. It's like something out of some sort of science fiction or fantasy novel. I can barely remember it now. But one of those daytime dreams. Maybe it was something I ate or didn't eat or should have eaten. I don't know. Well, hey, Gara, you wouldn't get an ad as a subscriber. Ads only apply to followers that are not subscribed. So, Oh, speaking of new followers, Scarlet Buns. What a name. I love that name. Scarlet Buns. Welcome in. I don't know if you're watching an ad for the next 12 seconds, but if not, appreciate you. 4 more seconds, and okay, here we go. Welcome back, everyone. We finished our ad break. Let's get cooking on the English bards and Scotch reviewers. There's about 11-ish more pages left of this poem, and like I said, I'm going to wrap it up early today because this is blah. There are so many words in this that I haven't had to say in a very long time since like doing theater as a kid. So it's a struggle. It's a bit of a struggle, but man, his words when they get rolling and they're cooking, it's just super good. So I did not expect this poem to be quite this verbose, shall we say. We will return to the next stanza, or canto. I think it's a canto, technically. O blessed retreats of infamy and ease, where all forgotten but the power to please, each maid may give a loose to genial thought. Each swain may teach new systems or be taught. There the blithe youngster, just returned from Spain, cuts the light pack or calls the rattling mane. Thank you, Hikara. The jovial caster set and sevens the nick, or done 1,000 on the coming trick. If mad with loss and existence against to tire begins, okay, it should be begins to tire. If mad with loss existence begins to tire, and all your hope or wish is to expire, here's Powell's pistol ready for your life, and kinder still 2 pagets for your wife. Pagets? And 2 pagets for your wife. Fit consummation of an earthly race, begun in folly, ended in disgrace, while none but menials or over the bed of death wash thy red wounds or watch thy wavering breath, traduced by liars and forgot by all, the mangled victim of a drunken brawl, to live like Clodius and like Falkland fall. Truth, rouse some genuine bard and guide his hand to drive this pestilence from out of the land. Even I, least thinking of a thoughtless throng, just skilled to know the right and choose the wrong. Freed at that age when reason's shield is lost, to fight my course through passion's countless host, whom every path of pleasure's flowery way has lured in turn, and all have led astray. Even I must raise my voice, even I must feel such scenes, such men destroy the public weal. Although some kind, censorious friend will say, what art thou better, meddling fool, than they? And every brother rake will smile to see that miracle a moralist in me, no matter when some bard in virtue strong, Gifford perchance shall raise the chastening song. Then sleep my pen forever, and my voice be only heard to hail him and rejoice. Rejoice and yield my feeble praise, though I may feel the lash that virtue must apply. As for the smaller fry, who swarm in shoals from silly halfies up to simple bowls, why should we call them from their dark abode in broad St. Giles or in Tottenham Road? Or, since some men of fashion nobly dare to scrawl in verse from Bond Street or the Square, if things of ton their harmless lays indite, most wisely doomed to shun the public sight, what harm? In spite of every critic elf, Sir T may read his stanzas to himself. Miles Andrew still his strength in couplets try, and live in prologues though his dramas die. Lords too are bards, such things at times befall, and 'tis some praise in peers to write at all. Yet, did or taste or reason sway the times, who would take their titles with their rhymes? Roscommon, Sheffield, with your spirits fled, no future laurels deck a noble head. No muse will cheer with renovating smile the paralytic puling of Carlyle. The puny schoolboy and his early lay men pardon if his follies pass away. But who forgives the senior's ceaseless verse, whose hairs grow hoary as his rhymes grow worse? What heterogeneous honors deck the peer, Lord Rhymester, petit mater, and pamphleteer? So dull in youth, so drivelling in his age, his scenes alone had damned our sinking stage. But managers for once cried, "Hold, enough!" nor drugged their audience with the tragic stuff. Yet at their judgment let his lordship laugh, and case his volumes in congenial calf. Yes, doff that covering where Morocco shines, and hang a calfskin on those recreant lines. With you, ye Druids, rich in native lead, who rich in native lead, who daily scribble for your daily bread. With you I war not. Gifford's heavy hand has crushed without remorse your numerous band. On all the talents vent your venal spleen. Want is your plea, let pity be your screen. Let Monades on Fox regale your crew, and Melville's mantle prove a blanket too. And once common Lethe waits each hapless bard, and peace be with you, 'tis your best reward. Such damning fame as Dunciad's only give could bid your lines beyond a morning live. But now at once your fleeting labors close with names of greater note in blessed repose. Far be it from me unkindly to upbraid the lovely Rose's prose in masquerade, who strains the faithful echoes of her mind, leave wondering comprehension far behind. Though Crusca's bards no more our journals fill, some stragglers skirmish round the column still. Last of the howling host which once was Belle's, Matilda snivels yet in Hafiz yells, and Mary's metaphors appear anew, chained to the signature of O.P.Q. When some brisk youth, the tenant of a stall, employs a pen less pointed than his all, leaves him snug shop, forsakes his store of shoes, St. Crispin quits and cobbles for the muse. Heavens! How the vulgar stare, how crowds applaud, how ladies read in literary laud. If chance some wicked wag should pass his jest, 'tis sheer ill nature. Don't the world know best? Genius must guide when wits admire the rhyme, and Capel loft declares 'tis quite sublime. Here then, ye happy sons of needless trade, swains, quit the plough, resign the useless spade. Lo, Burns and Bloomfield, nay, a greater far, Gifford was born beneath an adverse star, forsook the labors of a servile state, stemmed the rude storm, and triumphed over fate. Then why no more? If Phoebus smiled on you, Bloomfield, why not on brother Nathan too? Him too the mania, not the muse, has seized, not inspiration, but a mind diseased. And now no boor can seek his last abode, no common be enclosed without an ode. Oh, since increased in refinement deigns to smile on Britain's sons and bless our genial isle. Let poesy go forth, pervade the whole, alike the rustic and mechanic soul. Ye tuneful cobblers, still your notes prolong, compose at once a slipper and a song. So shall the fair your handiwork peruse, your sonnets sure shall please, perhaps, your shoes. May moorland weavers boast pedantic skill, and tailors' lays be longer than their bill, while punctual bows reward the grateful notes, and pay for poems when they pay for coats. To the famed throng now paid the tribute due. Neglected genius, let me turn to you. Come forth, O Campbell, give thy talents scope. Who dares aspire if thou must cease to hope? And thou, melodious Rogers, rise at last, recall the pleasing memory of the past. Arise! Let blessed remembrance still inspire, and strike to wonted tones thy hallowed lyre. Restore Apollo to his vacant throne, assert thy country's honor and thine own. What? Must desert Poesy still weep, where her last hopes with pious Cowper sleep? Unless, perchance, from his cold bier she turns to deck the turf that wraps her minstrel burns. No! Though contempt hath marked the spurious brood, the race who rhyme from folly or from food, yet still some genius sons 'tis hers to boast, who least affecting still affect the most. feel as they write, and write but as they feel. Bear witness, Gifford, Sotheby, MacNeill. Why slumbers Gifford? Once was asked in vain. Why slumbers Gifford? Let us ask again. Are there no follies for his pen to purge? Are there no fools whose backs demand the scourge? Are there no sins for satire's bard to greet? Stalks not gigantic vice in every street? Shall peers or princes tread pollution's path and escape alike the laws and muses' wrath? Nor blaze with guilty glare through future time eternal beacons of consummate crime. Arouse thee, Gifford, be thy promise claimed, make bad men better, or at least ashamed. Unhappy wight, while life was in its spring and thy young muse just waved her joyous wing, the spoiler swept that soaring lyre away, which else had sounded as an immortal lay. Oh, what a noble heart was here undone, what science self-destroyed her favourite son, when science self-destroyed her favourite son? Yes, she too much indulged thy fond pursuit, she sowed the seeds, but death must reap the fruit. But death has reaped the fruit. 'Twas thine own genius gave the final blow, and helped to plant the wound that laid thee low. So the struck eagle stretched upon the plain, no more through rolling clouds to soar again, viewed his own feather on the fatal dirt, and winged the shaft that quivered in his heart. Keen were his pangs, but keener far to feel he nursed the pinion which impelled the steel, while the same plumage that had warmed his nest drank the last life drop of his bleeding breast. There be who say in these enlightened days that splendid lies are all the poet's praise, that strained invention ever on the wing alone impels the modern bard to sing. 'Tis true that all who rhyme, nay, all who write, shrink from that fatal word to genius, trite. Yet truth sometimes will lend her noblest fires, and decorate the verse herself inspires. This fact in virtue's name let Crabbe attest, though nature's sternest painter, yet the best. And here let she and genius find a place, whose pen and pencil yield an equal grace, to guide whose hand the sister arts combine, and trace the poet's or the painter's line, whose magic touch can bid the canvas glow, or pour the easy rhyme's harmonious flow, while honors doubly merited attend the poet's rival but the painter's friend. Blessed is the man who dares approach the bower where dwelt the muses at their natal hour, whose steps have pressed, whose eyes have marked afar the clime that nursed the sons of song and war. The scenes which glory still must hover over, her place of birth, her own Achaean shore, but doubly blessed is he whose heart expands with hallowed feelings for those classic lands, who rends the veil of ages long gone by, and views their remnants with a poet's eye. Right, 'twas thy happy lot at once to view these shores of glory, and to sing them too, and sure no common muse inspired thy pen to hail the land of gods and godlike men. And you, associate bards, who snatched to light those gems too long withheld from modern sight, whose mingling taste combined to cull the wreath where Attic flowers Aeonian, where Attic flowers Aeonian odors breathe, and all their renovated fragrance flung to grace the beauties of your native tongue. Now let those minds that nobly could transfuse the glorious spirit of the Grecian muse, though soft the echoes scorn a borrowed tone, resign Achaea's lyre and strike your own. Let these, of such or such as these with just applause, restore the muse's violated laws. but not in flimsy Darwin's pompous chime, that mighty master of unmeaning rhyme, whose gilded symbols, more adorned than clear, the eye delighted but fatigued the ear. In show the simple lyre could once surpass, but now worn down appear in native brass, while all his train of hovering sylphs around evaporate in similes and sound. Him let them shun, with him let tinsel die. False glare attracts, but more offends the eye. Yet let them not to vulgar Wordsworth stoop, the meanest object of the lowly group, whose verse of all but childish prattle void seems blessed harmony to Lamb and Lloyd. Let them. But hold, my muse not dare to teach a strain far, far beyond thy humble reach, the native genius with their being given, with point the path and peal their notes to heaven. And thou, too, Scott, resign to minstrel rude the wider slogan of a border feud. The wilder slogan of a border feud. Let others spin their meager lines for hire, enough for genius if it itself inspire. Let Southey sing, although his teeming muse, prolific every spring, be too profuse. Let simple Wordsworth chime his childish verse. Welcome in, Pepson. And brother Coleridge lull the babe at nurse. Let spectre-mongering Lewis aim, at most, to rouse the galleries or to raise a ghost. Let Moore still sigh, let Strangford steal from Moore, and swear that Camions sang such notes of yore. Let Haley hobble on Montgomery rave, and godly Graham chant a stupid stave. Let sonneteering Bowles his strains refine, and whine and whimper to the 14th line. Let Stott, Carlyle, Matilda, and the rest of Grub Street and the Grosvenor Place the best, scrawl on, till death release us from the strain, or common sense assert her rights again. But thou, with powers that mock the aid of praise, shouldst leave to humbler bards ignoble lays. Thy country's voice, the voice of all the nine, demands a hallowed harp, that harp is thine. Say, will not Caledonia's annals yield the glorious record of some nobler field, that the wild foray of plundering clan, whose proudest deeds disgrace the name of man, or Marmion's acts of darkness, fitter food for Sherwood's outlaws' tales of Robin Hood? And be thy praise his first, his best reward, yet not with thee alone his name should live, but own the vast renown a world can give. Be known, perchance, when Albion is no more, and tell the tale of what she was before. To future times her faded fame recall, and save her glory, though his countries fall. Yet what avails the sanguine poet's hope? To conquer ages and with time to cope. New eras spread their wings, new nations rise, and other victors fill the applauding skies. A few brief generations fleet along, whose sons forget the poet and his song. Even now, what once loved minstrel scarce may claim the transient mention of a dubious name, when fame's loud trump hath blown its noblest blast, though long the sound the echo sleeps at last. And glory, like the phoenix midst her fires, exhales her odors, blazes and expires. Shall hoary Granta call her sable sons, expert in science, more expert at puns? Shall these approach the muse? Ah, no! She flies, even from the tempting oar of Seaton's prize. Though printers condescend the press to soil with rhyme by Hoare and epic blank by Hoyle, not him whose page, if still upheld by whist, requires no sacred theme to bid us list. Ye, who in Granta's honours would surpass, must mount her Pegasus a full-grown ass, a foal well worthy of her ancient dam, whose helicon is duller than her cam. There, Clark, still striving piteously to please, forgetting doggerel leads not to degrees, a would-be satirist, a hired buffoon, a monthly scribbler of some low lampoon, condemned to drudge the meanest of the mean, the furbished falsehoods for a magazine, devotes to scandal his congenial mind, himself a living libel on mankind. Oh, dark asylum of a vandal race, at once the boast of learning and disgrace, so lost to Phoebus that nor Hodgson's verse can make thee better, nor poor Hewson's worse. But where fair Isis rolls her purer wave, the partial muse delighted loves to lave. On her green banks a greener wreath she wove, to crown the bards that haunt her classic grove, where Richard's wakes, a genuine poet's fires, and modern Britons glory in their sires. For me, who thus unasked have dared to tell my country what her sons should know too well, zeal for her honor bade me here engage the host of idiots that infest her age. No, just applause her honored name shall loose, at first in freedom dearest to the muse. Oh, would thy bards but emulate thy fame, and rise more worthy, Albion, of thy name! What Athens was in science, Rome in power, what tear appeared in her meridian hour. 'Tis thine at once, fair Albion, to have been earth's chief dictatress, ocean's lovely queen, but Rome decayed, and Athens strewed the plain, and tears' proud peers lie shattered in the main. Like these, thy strength may sink in ruin hurled, and Britain fall the bulwark of the world. But let me cease, and dread Cassandra's fate, with warning ever scoffed at, till too late. To themes less lofty still may my lay confine, and urge thy bards to gain a name like thine. Then, hapless Britain, be thy rulers best blessed, the Senate's oracles, the people's jest. Still here thy motley orators dispense the flowers of rhetoric, though not of sense, while Canning's colleagues hate him for his wit, and old Dame Portland fills the place of Pitt. Yet once again adieu. Ere this the sail, what wafts me hence, is shivering in the gale. And Alfric's coast and Calpe's adverse height, and Stamboul's minarets must greet my sight. Thence shall I stray through beauty's native clime, where Kaf is clad in rocks and crowned with snows sublime. But should I back return, no tempting press shall drag my journal from the desk recess. Let coxcombs printing, as they come from far, snatch his own wreath of ridicule from Carr. Let Aberdeen and Elgin still pursue the shades of fame, though through regions of virtue. Waste useless thousands on their Phidian freaks, misshapen monuments and maimed antiques, and make their grand saloons a general mart for all the mutilated blocks of art. Of Dardan tours let dilettanti tell. I leave topography to rapid Gell, and quite content no more shall interpose to stun the public ear, at least with prose. Thus far I've held my undisturbed career, prepared for rancor, steeled against selfish fear. This thing of rhyme I never disdained to own, though not unobtrusive, yet not quite unknown. My voice was heard again, though not so loud. My page, though nameless, never disavowed, and now at once I tear the veil away, cheer on the pack, the quarry the quarry stands at bay, unscared by all the din of Melbourne House, by Lamb's resentment or by Holland's spouse, by Geoffrey's harmless pistol, Hallam's rage, Adina's brawny sons, and Brimstone page. Our men in buckram shall have blows enough, and feel they too are a penetratable stuff. And though I hope not hence unscathed to go, who conquers me shall find a stubborn foe. The time hath been when no harsh sound would fall from lips that now may seem imbued with gall, nor fools nor follies tempt me to despise the meanest thing that crawled beneath my eyes. But now, so callous grown, so changed since youth, I've learned to think and sternly speak the truth, learned to decide the critic's starch decree, and break him on the wheel he meant for me, to spurn the rod a scribbler bids me kiss, nor care if courts and crowds applaud or hiss. Nay more, though all my rival rhymesters frown, I too can hunt a poetaster down. Poetaster? How do I say that? Give me more. Poetaster. The more you know. A person who writes inferior poetry. Ooh. Poets have their own words for insulting poetaster. I too can hunt a poetaster down, and armed in proof the gauntlet cast at once to Scotch marauder and to southern dunce. Thus much I've dared. If my incondite lay hath wronged these righteous times, let others say. This, let the world which knows not how to spare, yet rarely blames unjustly, now declare. Woo, doggy! That was a beefy poem. I can only imagine most of that poem, the things he had to say about English poets and authors was just harsh, to say the least. I feel like he was right. I feel like there was a lot of just kind of poetry, like just there wasn't the words of yesteryear, and he was laying truth to that. Honestly, given our current political climes and situations going on in the world, I'm surprised more poets haven't, risen up to write the words that needed to be said. That's okay, that one dude. I appreciate you stopping by regardless. I am going to wrap up here since that was an absolute doozy, a whopper, if you will, as Sagara said, of a poem. And I think I need to go eat something, or at least order something to eat. And I will take a break here. Let me find somebody lovely for us to go visit. There's a couple people chatting. There's some art that might be a little silly. Oh, my friend Bear is playing Deep Rock Galactic. We could go there. We could go watch some artists do some stuff. It's been a minute since I've dove into Bear's stream. I would love to go see him and say hi. So let's go visit Bear. That sounds amazing, that one dude. I enjoy having anybody that wants to listen to the prose and stories of the yesteryear. All right. This is Vexing Cat. I am going to wrap up here for today, as I said before. Let's go raid Mr. Bear. It's going to be a little silly going from the prose of Lord Byron to Bear playing a deep space game where dwarves go mining and kill bugs, but we're here for it. Bear's really chill, and I recommend if you don't already follow him, you should check him out. So let's go visit Bear. All right. Alley-oop. For Carl. Yes. Okay, all aboard. Let's go visit my dear friend Bear.